So what's your guess with a Democratic Congress, Senate, and President that the future of these estate taxes are going to be? Do you have any guesses?
Well, my opinion is that we're going to have continue to have federal estate taxes. The idea of the Republicans has always been to maintain property and not to mix up the wealth too much. Well, the Democrats are more inclined to go for taxes with a graduated tax rate. Now, if you see the difference between that, you can think about that when you talk about the reform in the tax law. Because what is going to happen is that when we get no federal estate tax, then what will happen is that there will be more capital gains tax, because currently they're thinking about, or the way the law is supposed to be read is that we'll have a $1.3 million exemption for federal, we'll have a $1.3 million step up in basis, and between spouses a $1.7 million step up in basis, and the rest of the capital gains tax, which is separate than federal estate tax, that will be at a carryover basis. So what that means is that as long as people do not sell property, then there's no problem. But the minute they sell the property, then the capital gains tax comes in. So if you're in a Republican administration where you want to keep properties the same, obviously that type of thinking works. If you're a small businessman, for example, you have a small business, and what happens is the kids are going to take the small business. They're not going to sell the small business, so if they don't sell the small business, what happens? They don't have to pay any federal estate tax. Under our system as it is now, and even before, where the exemption was lower, what happened in that situation is it, especially with small businesses, forced businesses to sell. I mean, Joe's Bar is a bar that, and with Joe the bartender, that bar is, the value of that bar might be a lot, and as a result of that, the kids that inherit that bar have to pay for that. So what do? There's no way to pay the taxes except by selling the bar or a piece of real estate or whatever that is, and of course that causes the problems. When you talk about the traditional Republican way of doing it before, you don't have to sell the bar. If you don't sell it, you're not paying any taxes. So that's a slight difference, but it can make a difference in terms of distribution of wealth.
Yeah, that's good. And also that happens for people who own large swaths of land and farmland and things like that.
Or stock even.
Or stock. We're going to be taking a break in just a moment. We'll be back. Our call-in number is 888-401-5464. Back to Money Confidential. My name is Holmes Osborne. We're taking calls at 888-401-5464. We have Joe Deering on. Joe is an estate planning lawyer. Where'd you go to law school?
Hastings Law School.
Where's that?
That's in San Francisco. It's part of the University of California.
Okay.
Up there in San Francisco.
Okay.
That's good.
We were talking about, Joe was telling me about debt forgiveness, and I did not know this. This is very interesting. If you owe a bank some money, let's say that you owe them $200,000 and they forgive part of the loan of $100,000, that $100,000 to you is ordinary income.
That's correct. The interesting part about that is that we're getting into situations where there is going to be a lot of consideration about modifying loans. Sometimes there are various modification programs, and also for house loans, but also for credit card debt. So if you have credit card debt, and there is a big push on now with the stimulus package and so forth, to get that debt partially paid off, get it settled, to get that done with. Most people don't realize that if the institution goes ahead and say forgives part of that debt, they say, okay, well, if you pay $10,000 in cash, we'll forgive the $20,000. If that happens, then what you're going to have is a situation where there's another $10,000 of ordinary income, which people don't actually realize that's there. So,
and anytime the IRS sees one person writing something off and somebody else gets the income, they want things to balance out. So if the bank, forgives a $100,000 loan, they get to write that off their taxes. So the IRS has to make that up someplace. They're looking to make that up for the person who gets the benefit of that forgiveness, aren't they?
That's true, and believe you me, they're going to send you a 1099 form, so it's not like you can forget about it. Now, arguably it could be that you don't have much income if you're in a desperate straits as we are, but it's something that you should want to try to keep in mind when you talk to the bank about changing the arrangements of debt. So that you want to avoid debt forgiveness if you want to worry about your income tax issues.
Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever done this in your practice, but have you ever worked with someone to negotiate a settlement with the IRS if they owed them money?
Yes, I've done that, and I think the IRS is doing that more and more.
How does that work exactly? Let's say that a person owes the IRS $500,000 and they have no way of paying it. What happens from there?
Well, that depends upon the type of taxes it is. If, for example, it's regular income taxes, then the IRS will work with you in terms of making a payment plan or payment schedule so that you can pay it off. They try to do that to some extent, and especially now things are a little bit liberal in that area. On the other hand, if the amount of money happens to be payroll taxes where you're an employer, and this is what's happening quite a bit now, in a small businesses are having a tough time. When you are an employer in a small business and you have employees, it's very tempting to not pay, withhold the tax from the employees, but not give it to the IRS when it becomes due on a quarterly basis. They don't like to compromise that.